Let's have look at this question. There are two countries, China and Argentina, and there are two commodities, B and P. Unit labor requirements in China: in order to produce 1 unit of B, you require 3 labor hours. In China, in order to produce 1 unit of P, you require 2 labor hours. In Argentina, in order to produce 1 unit of B, you require 5 labor hours. And in order to produce P, in Argentina, you require just 1 labor hour. And the labor endowment is also given to you. That in China, you have 1,200 labor hours. In Argentina, you have 800 labor hours. And both countries are large enough to affect the terms of trade. So the first question says draw PPFs, right? Draw PPF for both the countries. Right? What will be the relative price of B in the absence of trade? B, the relative price of B in absence of trade. First part. In absence of trade. First part. So you may pause the video, try to do it yourself first. Right. So let me just make the table for this. Well, if I just want to draw the PPF, so it is what in China, B and P are produced, and you require 3 labor hours to produce a unit of B, and you require 2 labor hours to produce a unit of P. The total labor endowment in China is what, to 1,200. So the number of hours of labor you require to produce 1 unit of B is 3 into the total quantity of B which is produced in China, which is B, let's say. The number of labor hours you require to produce a unit of P into the number of the amount of P which is produced in China, that is P, is equal to 1,200. So this is exactly like your budget constraint, the way you draw it, right? So we just want to draw this, right? So you have B and you have P. So if B is 0, P is 600, right? And if P is 0, B is 300. Sorry, 400. P is 400. So we are assuming constant marginal opportunity cost, and because of that reason, you are drawing the, what do you call, your PPF as a linear PPF, right? So this is what PPF for China looks like, right? This is what PPF for China looks like. Okay. And let us just talk about Argentina now. So in Argentina, you have this case. In Argentina, you need 5 labor hours to produce a unit of B. You need 1 labor hour to produce a unit of P. And the total amount of labor endowment which is there in the country is 800. Right. So how does the PPF going to look like? So first of all, you require 5 labor hours to produce 1 unit of B into the amount of B which is produced in Argentina. You require 1 labor hour to produce a unit of P into the amount of P which is produced in Argentina is equal to 800. So when P is 0, P is 800. right? And when P is 0, B is 800 upon 5. So that is 160. Mhm. This is 160. So you have PPF for Argentina. So you've answered one part of the question, saying that you've drawn what PPFs look like, right? They look like this, first of all. So relative prices of B in the absence of trade would be equal to the slope of the PPF. You have done this in your theory class. Please write this somewhere. Relative price of B in the absence of trade would be equal to the slope of PPF, right? Would be equal to the slope of PPF. So in China, the relative price would be 600 upon 400. That is 3 by 2. So PB is equal to 1.5 PP, something like this. So in China, the PPF, sorry, relative price is PB. Yes. In Argentina, it is going to be the slope of PPF is what, 800 upon 160? 800 upon 160. So that is what, 5. So in Argentina, the relative price is going to be PB is equal to 5 PP. PB is equal to 5. Okay. So your next part of the question says this. Next part of the question says that if both countries decide to trade, if both countries decide to trade, describe the pattern of trade. Describe the pattern of trade. So you need to find out the opportunity costs here, right? So in order to produce what, 1 unit of broccoli or 1 unit of B in China, you require 3 hours of labor, right? Okay. In order to produce 1 unit of P in China, you require 2 hours. So the opportunity cost of B is given by ALB upon ALP, that is 3 by 2 in China. Okay. Then in order to produce B in Argentina, you require 5 labor hours. In order to produce P in Argentina, you require 1 labor hour. So the opportunity cost of this guy B in Argentina is what? 5 upon, that is what? That is in Argentina. In Argentina, right? So the opportunity cost of B in China is lesser than the opportunity cost of B in Argentina, right? So what will happen is that China should be specializing in B. That is, China has a comparative advantage in B. So how do you write this? Opportunity cost of producing B in China is lesser than that of Argentina. So China has comparative advantage in production of B. That is, should specialize in production of B. Fair enough. Then the opportunity cost of producing P in China is how much? ALP upon ALP. That is what? 2 upon 3, right? Opportunity cost of producing P in China. So let me also name this opportunity cost of B. Here, opportunity cost of P. Right. Similarly, opportunity cost of producing P in this guy, Argentina, is going to be what? 1 upon 5. Right? So since Argentina has the lower opportunity cost in the production of P, so Argentina has the comparative advantage in the production of P. Argentina has comparative advantage in production of P, right? In production of P. Hence, should specialize in production of P. Hence, should specialize in production of P, right? Okay. Achha, you tell me one thing. When China has specialized in the production of B, right? So what was my production possibility frontier? 3B plus 2P equals to 1200, right? 3B plus 2P equals to 1200. That is what it is. So China is not going to produce anything of P. So China should be producing B equals to 400. China should be producing B equals to 400. Right. What was the production possibility of this guy, Argentina? Argentina is not producing anything of B. So Argentina should be using 800, what do you call, units of P, 800 units of P. Okay. Then the next part of the question says, explain gains from trade for the two countries. Right. Okay. Now, total production of B is 400 when the trade has taken place. Total production of P is 800, right? So, and also suppose that they were consuming somewhere here. Let us say here, at this particular point. So China was consuming here on its PPF before the trade. Before trade happens, China was consuming here, that is here at this point. Before trade happens. And Argentina was, let's say, consuming here. This is a very normal case. That is what you could have produced with all specialization, you are just consuming half of it. So you're consuming both the commodities. And you were producing also here. So before trade, whatever is your production possibility, that is what your consumption possibility is. So we are assuming that before trade, China was at point A, let's say, and Argentina is at point, okay, let me just also, let's say China was at point E, and Argentina is, what should I do? EC and EA, right? So China was at point EC and Argentina was at point EA. Now what happens is that Argentina makes an offer. Argentina says, I am producing all P, yes. You are producing all B, yes. So why don't we do one thing? I will give you 400 units of P and you give me 20 units of P. You give me 20 units of B. So note that after trade, China is sitting here. That is specialization in B. And Argentina is sitting here. That is specialization in P. And Argentina makes an offer. Argentina says, makes an offer. It says to China, you give me 400 units of B. In return of 400 units of not B, P. In return for 400B, it asks, फिर से P, B. In return for 400P, it asks for 20B from China. So it is saying, China, you are producing everything of B. You are producing 400. You also need P. We also know this. So out of your 400 units of B, why don't you give me 20 units of B? In return for that, I'll give you 400 units of B. In return of that, I'll give you 400 units of B, right? So what happens is that after trade, if China accepts this offer, then China would be sitting here 380, and it will have 400 units of this guy, P, in return. So from EC, it goes to EC dash. No? So this is what your consumption possibility frontier is. What about Argentina? Argentina is saying, boss, I'm going to give you I am specializing all in P. So I'm producing 800 units. Out of that, I'll give you 400 units, but you have to give me 20 units of B. So this is what, so 20 units of B will make 100, this thing. So this point is going to be E A dash. So don't you think that the consumption possibilities have increased for both the countries after trade? So because before trade, whatever was the production possibilities, those were only the consumption possibilities. But after trade, what has happened is that both the countries have gained from the specialization. Both the countries are consuming both the goods. Both the countries are in fact consuming more than what they were consuming before the trade. So that is what the gains from trade in this question is, right? Okay, beta.